Hi Sean, first question, a tough one.
Let's start off with a tough
Start
one.
off tough to get easy.
Good.
What is your first, if you have one, memory of childhood?
First,
As young as you can remember. Do you ever remember anything, an incident, a moment as a young child, something that sticks out?
a couple things probably. I would say being on the set of Wall Street. I guess I was about 2 years old.
Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Wow.
Because it was a big sound stage. You know, it's like you're a little kid and you're going to you remember the snacks on the film sets. You're going to get candy and whatnot. Walking around the stage with all these people running around. It's like a zoo. And then the house. There was the scene we shot in the Hamptons. I was Gecko's son, so I remember the beach and these beautiful houses, and when you're small, everything is 6 times as big as it is when you're older. So I do remember being on that set, and then I think a lot of the stuff that you remember when you're a kid, it's hard to distinguish if it's a dream or not. It's hard to remember. Was I actually there? Was I 1 year old? 1 years old in the winter time skiing up in some. Actually, it was a cool story because my parents went skiing in Wyoming, I think, or one of these states, and I was like 6 months or a year old, and my mom was alone with me. My dad left, and we were staying at a painter's house, and the painter was one of these eccentric guys. It's in the middle of the mountain. He lives in a nice place, a villa in the mountains, and he's working on this painting of a beautiful woman. But he said, I can never finish it because every night she comes to me, and she haunts me, and I can't get it right. And I was like, a kid, I was just like, what do you mean she comes to you? Is she gonna be walking around tonight? I was pretty freaked out by that. And these are the kind of things you don't remember. I don't know, was it a dream? Was that real? I tell my mom this story and she has no idea what I'm talking about. I said, I remember this guy. I remember this guy. So,
Let me ask you, you said two years of age on the set of Wall Street. Did you know it was a movie, or did you think it was a place you were just going?
I think I must have known because at like 6 months, my dad was shooting Platoon, and I was in the Philippines, and that was probably more realistic. I think it's probably more in my, like, you're unconscious, and it's like you're in the jungle and there's war, there's gunfire, explosions going on. Did I do that? No, I didn't do that.
Yeah.
How did I do that? Oh, fuck.
Yeah. The first gunfire. We were back in the Philippines.
It's timing. So it's like it's in your unconscious. At that point, I think it was more realistic. By 2 years old, I understood it was a film.
So, growing up, obviously your father was busy at this point. We all know, as you just made a film yourself, the time and the when you're not there, you're still there, and your mind's not there.
Yeah.
Did you feel you was in any way abandoned by your father for work?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. Abandoned as opposed to, I felt like very competitive with my father. It's actually a very interesting relationship that we had because I felt very
competitive with him or the film?
No, with him. It was very interesting because with my mom, I think I was about I must have been 4 years old, and I remember we were on the set of one of these movies, and they're asking, so Sean, you gonna get married one day? And I was like, no, I'm not gonna get married. Only if it's my mom. I'll marry my mom. And I remember saying that very clearly, like, I really want to marry my mom. Yeah, it was like completely edible. I really loved my mother, and she was like, beautiful blonde hair, blue eyes, very protective, very, always doing activities with me. And I think in a certain sense, there was a competition between my father and myself for her attention. And it happens to a lot of marriages where the wife doesn't give enough love to her father, to the husband anymore. She puts it all on the kids or her son, especially if in this case she only had one son. So there was this a bit of a back and forth where physically, my dad and I would actually wrestle, and I was like 4 or 5 years old, and he would always be stronger than me, but I loved him for it because it was, he's a strong guy, and I felt very protected when he was in the house. But I also wanted to get away from my mom. She's my mom. She's mine. I have to be in bed. I have to be in the middle with you guys. I have to sleep. So it's very funny because it's love, but it's also rivalry.
Sure.
And it's very animalistic in a certain sense. So I think that was more than anything the feeling with my dad, which is to say I always felt his presence. It was never a point that I felt abandoned, because even when he wasn't there, it was still his house. It was still like he was still around, and he knew that his love was there. His nest was still there, and it wasn't like until he got divorced. When my parents divorced, then it was this empty feeling.
How old were you then?
9, 10 years old.
And you lived with your mom?
Yeah, so I stayed with my mom, and that was really when I think your whole world shakes. Because it's like one day, especially in this time, it was 93, 94, and there was one other kid in my class whose parents were divorced. 1 or 2 out of like 30 kids. So it wasn't a common thing. And, you at the time you would say, you're weird a little bit, like, what's wrong with your family if they're not together? Now, maybe half the class is divorced, maybe 2/3, it's more common, but I remember my mom telling me one day, oh, your father and I, we're gonna get divorced. I said, why? No, that's not supposed to happen. You're not supposed to get divorced, it's not normal, family doesn't get divorced. And it really shakes the world. I don't think it matters what age. All of a sudden your home is torn. The father, like, it becomes an obligation to see him in another place. It's his house, but it's not familiar anymore. He had an apartment, and I felt like when we were a family, there was a balance insofar as everyone had to share a certain bit, a certain amount of time. Like if I wanted to do something, okay, he would chip in because we were all together. But then when I went to his place, it was like, okay, now we're on his schedule, and there's no mother to protect me, and it's just me and him. So it became much more of less of a rivalry and more of like a challenging, bonding relationship.
More of a visitor in a strange place rather than your home.
Yeah, a visitor, but actually it made me closer to him, because at first it was a challenge insofar as there was no mother intervening anymore. There was no woman to say, hey, lay off the kid, be nice to him, if he doesn't want to go to swimming class, the mom steps in, my mom would step in and say, it's okay, he can do what he wants to do. Now it's like, you're fat, and no one's gonna say you're not fat. You're just like, it's your father telling you directly, you're fat, you're lazy, you need to work harder, you need to go exercise, you need to do this, you need to get your life in order. And I think that was a very positive thing.
Was he tough on you?
Yeah, because he's tough on everyone. He's very critical. Like you said, I think it was, you said it in Alexander. He says the more he loves you, the more he challenges you, and the more he wants to push you because he sees himself in you. And it's true. He projects. I think he projects more than most people I know. He projects himself.
And I think he sees greatness in you that maybe you're not reaching what he sees in you.
Mm-hmm.
So he tries to get you to rise to your full potential.
Yeah.
And he does push. Interestingly, your mother was the one you wanted to marry. As a general, this is just a specific general question, if there's such a thing. Are you attracted now to blonde, blue-eyed types?
No. Actually, I'm more attracted to brunettes as a species. Blondes, actually. It's been a funny game, because I think the first girl I liked in high school was blonde. It's true. I think it happens for a lot of guys, though. Blonde catches your eyes. Brunette is often more exotic in a certain sense. And then it's almost like a constant struggle back and forth in your life between, do I go with the blonde or the brunette, and how come we can't have both? And have a chocolate vanilla swirl. And girls just have to dye their hair sometimes, put on wigs and pretend that they're two people.
But we always find out somehow, don't we? As we travel south.
You can't hide, you can't run, you can't hide.
No. You just directed a film. I'm going to go back and forth from the past to the future. When did you, of course, being around a father who is a prolific filmmaker as he is, you're exposed to film early age. I think any normal kid, unless I find you very brave and bold, and in many ways normal, in the fact that I don't want to say brave and bold. I just see you as healthy because you're taking on a profession in an innocent manner in regard to you're not afraid of what many people would be afraid, the shadow of my father. When I heard you was directing your first film, I was really happy. I thought, you know what, thank God there's one fucking guy out there who's not going to back away from something because he's around someone who's great at it. Doesn't mean... is it a film you wrote?
I lived it and wrote it.
Let's talk about that.
So, yeah, I mean, I was trying. It's been an interesting thing because I was working behind the scenes of Alexander. I shot the documentary, and then I went back to school. And so I always wanted to do film, but I wanted to take it, step by step. Finished college, went to work writing scripts and just trying to, find my way into it. Essentially, I had projects that I liked, I had written, that I wanted to direct. It's tough. It's very tough, obviously, to get your first film made. Right? No one knows if you can pull it off. Basically what background proof that you can make money. So I was struggling with that. I worked with my dad on W and his history documentary series as an editor, and then I basically he and I would clash around editing choices. I think it was good. I challenged him in a lot of ways, and I would say, I have a different vision, and he appreciated it. But at the end of the day, I knew that I wanted to have my own vision of film, and I didn't want to depend upon him overriding me. So I went off to try to get one of a couple of projects done as a director. He went to do Wall Street, and it was October '09, and I went to visit the set, and he threw me in for one cameo, and then I met this kid one night. We had dinner together, and this kid Alex, he was in Wall Street for like one scene, but he was hanging out with my dad, and they'd go out a lot and they had fun. But Alex is he's very ambitious. I was always fascinated by occult and ghosts and mysteries, right? So I'm like, that's kind of cool. Let me see. He said, yeah, I'm gonna go tomorrow night actually. Like, all right, let's go. so I bring this girl along who's ex-Marine, and I figured, let's go for a date. I bet you can handle yourself. You're hardcore. Let's go check this place out. So we go out there an hour into Jersey, drive out, and as we go along, Alex keeps making I realize this guy's kind of nuts. It's like every step of the way. Oh, by the way, we're breaking in, so just be cool. Like if we get pulled over, just act like we're lost, right? I'm like, oh, okay, this is a break-in. And then, next thing you know, it's, oh yeah, this is October 13th, and Satanists sometimes sometimes come and hang out here and do worship, ceremonies. And I'm like, okay, great. So there might be people in there. Like every step of the way, it feels a little bit nuttier. So we get to the property, find a door that's open, start to explore, and the place is amazing. It's the biggest asylum, I'm pretty sure it's the biggest asylum in North America. It was the biggest foundation until they built the Pentagon. So, sprawling miles and miles, underground tunnels that connect to different buildings, and the main building is like a bird kind of shape. So it's you can really get not lost, but it seems to go on and keep expanding. So we're walking these corridors.
So this was a usable facility at one point?
Yeah, it was.
Do you know when it ended?
Yeah, so it was built in the 19th century, housed 10,000 patients at any one point. Woody Guthrie was at this hospital, and it was shut down from the 70s forward. They finally closed it, like wing by wing. They finally closed it maybe a few years ago, 3-4 years ago. But it's pretty much been empty for about 20 years, not really in use, not in full use. And so we were, the interesting thing is all the lights are on, because the fire code, they keep the lights on. And you really are walking through this place, like at any moment you're expecting someone to just walk out into the corridor, because it's like people up and left, like the Twilight Zone. The chairs, the tables, and the drapery, everything is still there. And it's an uncanny feeling, just being amongst the unknown. It's so quiet. and then you hear a sound, and it's like, was that an animal? Was that, you know, a ghost? Is there a person living here? But it was pretty quiet. We walked around, really, you know, just shooting, just kind of like, you know,
Filmed it.
we were kind of, we were shooting a little, you know, handheld kind of thing, right? Just exploring. And we start to go up to the top level. And the next thing you know, we're on the 4th floor, pitch black, some dirty floors. It's like looks like a construction zone. The ceilings are caving in. You don't know if there's, you know, if you're gonna hit a hole. We have the little flashlights, but you know, it's very hard to see. So walking. Next thing you know, Alex is in front of us. He goes, whoa! He jumps, shuts off his light, and starts running, sprinting past us, all the way back. So we just kind of go, and I go, boom, start running. I think, oh fuck, he saw a Satanist or somebody's up here. Then just sprint down the stairs, all the way down to the bottom floor, and he's heaving like he's about to throw up. You know, it's like gagging, trying to get his breath. Like, what's going on? He's like, did you see that? Did you see that? I'm like, what are you talking about? See what? You know, what's going on? There was this lady. It was her face, and her face was sticking out like a ghost. You know, just came out of the floor and jumped in his face. And he's, you know, explaining. I'm just like, dude, just stay calm. We're gonna walk out of here. It's all right. Just, you know, keep breathing. And then he, you know, he starts to walk off, and he's starting to, he's a little bit out of it. He's like, man, I'm really shook. I'm like that. I don't usually get shook. I don't get shook. I'm like, all right, let's go. Where's the exit? Alex, where's the exit?
Did you believe him?
I believed him. Yeah, I believed him because he was really freaked out, and like the way that he was gagging, like he did almost throw up. It would be hard to, I don't know. I mean, you have to be a great actor, because it was really messed up. The thing was that I didn't know where we were anymore because it's very strange. Like you really get in there, and next thing you know, like you're turned around and you don't recognize. This is where we came from. It's like a labyrinth, you know. And he starts walking. I said, Alex, how do we get out of here, man? He's like, no, it's okay. We're gonna keep going. I'm like, dude, there's something here. Like, let's just go. And I'm starting to feel the energy now because it was like the place started to warm up, and you feel all of a sudden something coming in, and it's really difficult to explain. It's just that bad feeling, like there's something in this place. He's like, no, don't worry about it. Just we go to the kitchen. I said, why do we go to the fucking kitchen? He says, that's where they eat. Like, who? Who eats? What are you talking about? And it's like he's walking off. I'm like, Jesus Christ, what's going on? You know, this is time to go. But the girl's like, it's okay. Let's just keep going. Let's keep exploring. So, I'm like, all right. Next thing I know, we're on a floor with pitch black again. Occult. There's an eye. There's like an eye and a triangle. Very occult, like Illuminati kind of sign. And I'm thinking, oh my God, the Satanists. They must be designing this kind of stuff, and they must be around because we walk through a hole in the wall. And literally there's a sign on the other side of the door. It says death. Just written across. It's like in front of the door. I'm going, I'm not going there. And I was like, what? What's wrong? No. I said, that's a sign. It says death. Don't go that way. We can go another way. It's like, no. Just keep going.
How's the girl at this point?
She's all right. You know, she's not really feeling it, the energy that much. She doesn't believe in the stuff. But she did, like later we talked about it, and she did feel it. But she's pretty, you know, she was cool about it. So I'm just like, I got a really bad feeling, you know, this is definitely the wrong way to be going. So we go through the death, and next thing I know, it's like we crossed the threshold, and I felt like that was it. It was like 12 Monkeys. We have SARS written on the walls, and all the corridors, microfilm footage, these guitars that say "We Kill Fascists," the Woody Guthrie guitars all over the place, and footprints in the sawdust. Like there's sawdust on the ground and footprints. And at that point, Alex starts hearing some footsteps above us. And then we hear in the corridor behind us. And I just grabbed him and I said, you motherfucker, you get us out of here right now. And he's like, wait, just stay calm, just keep moving. So like, you know, we started running, and we get out of there, we haul the ass out. And that was just the beginning of the story, because the thing was we kept going back into like these kind of haunted places, you know, exploring and
different places, different locations,
different places, a lot of different places.
How long did you on this for before you started to sit down? And
well, the thing
was you writing at the same time?
Okay, well, what happened was, so after this night, I started writing the script. I was flying back to LA that morning. It was like we got home at like 2 a.m. and I flew out at like 6 a.m. and I was literally writing the script on the plane. And I told the producers that I was working with on another project, I said, this is the story. This is going to be a movie. It's like, this is Paranormal Activity, but real, and in a much spookier place. So I was writing the script within like a week, and it was had a first draft. Within a month, we were out in New York, access to the actual location, financing was in
The
place.
place you shot it. The place you went.
The place, and then all within right around Thanksgiving, within 2-3 days, we lost the financing, we lost the location, we lost everything. The location realized what the story was a ghost story, and they didn't want to bring up anything bad about the mental hospital, the lobotomies and the electroshock, everything that was done to the patients inside of there. So they killed it. The financier then freaked out. He killed it, and we spent the next 6 months basically exploring, going to more haunted houses, haunted asylums, dealing with the shadows and demons and really insane stuff.
Quick question, where did you find these places? How did you research where these places are?
Alex knew most of them because he'd spent a lot of time, I think, just checking it out between online and online you can find a lot of things. He'd gone to most of the mental hospitals, so he knew which ones were accessible. Some of them much tighter security, from the police. Others are much more open.
Why do you think mental hospitals?
I think madness, because I think demon possession. You see, the old stories about demon possession is real. I believe it. That when people, I've been to a lot of the working ones, like Creedmoor. We shot Creedmoor, which is still working. And you have the security guard, and she'll tell you stories about how her brother was hearing voices. And she'd say shadows, shadows be in the house, right? And they was talking to him, saying, you have to kill this lady. This lady's crazy. Talking. And people practice so much weird stuff, like occult activity. The lady told us the story about her brother because the brother was hearing the shadows talking to him, telling you have to kill this lady. This girl is trying to kill you. His girlfriend, he said, was practicing witchcraft. Was taking his piss, his urine, and collecting it, and then doing spells with it. Old voodoo kind of stuff, right? And so he thought she was working with the devil. So he killed her. And then within a year, he killed himself. After he was in prison, he killed himself. So you imagine all these people communicating with different things, right? And they all come to one place. And now you have 6,000 people who also are dying and being buried on the property. So that's not, already you have a burial ground. But then whatever energies that they're bringing in, demons and ghosts and whatever it is, just being haunted, and they stay there. What happens? What happens?
I read a script years ago. I just love your thought on this because of obviously the genre of what you just did. I read an incredible script in a mental home, and a guy walks in, said he's Jesus Christ. He had like a room, and of course he got a room. But when he was talking to the doctor, he said to the doctor, "These are not crazy people." He said, "These are God's angels."
Mm.
And his concept was they can't deal with rape, murder, pillage, the life. He said, everyone on the outside's numb. These guys feel, they can't, they're beautiful people. That's why they're here. They can't deal with the world. The world is so mad. So he sees it in a completely different light. Is there anything in that?
That too. Absolutely, because I'll tell you, we shot in one location, which was in Creedmoor, called the Living Museum. And it's famous because the artists are the patients. And they've created, a little mock MoMA, in a sense, right? Very incredible artwork. If you saw this in any modern art museum, you wouldn't be surprised. But it's a mental hospital. And they're just, sometimes they've killed people, sometimes they check themselves in, but for whatever reason, they don't want to deal with society. And they just be paint, they can release themselves creatively. So I do believe that. I do believe that there are a lot of people who can't deal with this world out here, but I think there's another plane of reality. It's an interdimensional universe that we live in, and these aliens and spirits and demons, they exist, but they're not readily perceivable to our human eyes and our human senses. So most people are numbed out. They don't have to deal with the dark. If you had to, this is why this goes back to any ancient time where armies are, from Lebanon, from Persia to Rome to Greece. If you're out on campaign in the woods, you would hear things at night. If you were dealing with the darkness, pure darkness, you would see things. Your senses develop into awareness, and we don't have that anymore. We don't have pure about the project is that like just like 3 kids going into a place that is off limits. You know, well, it's forbidden. You can't go in there. Just saying, well, why not? Why can't we explore anymore? Why can't we still have that spirit of adventure of saying, I want to know. Don't tell me I don't believe in ghosts. Go look for them. Go experience it for yourself. Go search and inquire, and then then come to your own conclusion. But people have this assumption that we've discovered it all. Well, we know everything about the universe. We know everything there is to know, and life is just routine. No, you make it routine. You've boiled it down to your laptop and your iPhone and your iPod and your text messaging and your little life and your routine. But that's your choice. And still break through that.
You finished the film?
Almost.
Never say never. You're not the director's cut of the year.
I mean, we're close, but we're not. It's not in the can because we have visual effects and sound. And
The
stuff.
process of making it. Are you happy with the? Do you think you got what you wanted? Obviously, there's always more for every artist, but do you think you got the film you wanted to make?
Yeah, because it's real. It's very raw. We're gonna see how. Right now, this is where it's very delicate actually, because when it comes to the color and the sound effects and the music, I don't want to take away the integrity of what we shot, which is we shot in real haunted places. A lot of the times the performances are genuinely reacting to things that are happening, and the story overall it's a conception that I had of what the supernatural realm is.
Now you starred in the film.
Yeah.
I heard you were very, very good. Not to blow smoke up your ass, but was you always planning on doing it, or did that happen by?
To act in it?
Yeah.
It's very funny actually, because when I first wrote the script, I had the experience. I changed the names. I said John is Sean. Alex will play himself because he's an actor. Antonella, this girl I wanted from the beginning to come with us. I thought she's got that ghostly quality, and I wrote it for her. But she actually she was haunted as a kid. I didn't know this.
A real girl.
Yeah.
An actress.
Yeah, she's an NYU kid, but she was like a friend of the family. I'd known her for a couple of years, friend of mine. But I always thought like I wanted to bring her to the place in the first place. My instinct was to bring her. And later she told me she was haunted as a kid. So she had that quality to her. So I didn't write myself in this. I wrote myself as a character, but I didn't write it for me. And we were working on the first draft, second draft, and Alex, my co-writer, my producer, and my friend of mine, a musician, all said, why don't you just put yourself in it? Because it's your story, and if you're doing it like a documentary, just play yourself. And I said, all right, I don't want to be presumptuous, but you're right. Insofar as it's documentary style and we're holding the camera anyway, it would make sense that I can still direct and shoot. But you realize how challenging that would be when you're actually holding the camera, especially because it's like you're coordinating scares, performances, the angles all at the same time. So it's like your head's in 3 different directions. But that was really, it just came out of other people's suggestions as opposed to my idea of it.
Being an actor, I understand some of the process. Even though it's a documentary, it's reality in many ways. When they say action, you're on camera.
Yeah.
So things do affect it different. Now there's a subconscious, self-consciousness creeps in a little bit. Did you find it a comfortable experience as an actor, or was it uncomfortable? On the flip side, it's a reality improvised based on a script, I believe. You wrote the skeleton, I'm sure, and you allowed people to stray.
Yeah.
Even though it was a documentary style, did you as a director see stuff they did and said, well, let's do it again, and I'd like you to react a different way? Was that a difficult process?
It was interesting. It wasn't comfortable because I really let it go, and my directing side kind of took a step back, and it wasn't so much about do it this way. I'll give guidance where I saw it, but it was really more interactive in the sense of three people walking through the experience together, living the experience together, flowing with the camera. We have a big problem sometimes because the DP was between letting the DP operate and having him take the camera back and forth and letting the kids actually operate. And so oftentimes we get frustrated. We'd say, it feels too stagnant when he's holding it, right? It's not the same energy. Just I don't care if it's soft focus or if it looks a little bit more messy. Let's just take the camera and pass it back and forth. And so it became more of an acting exercise. And also, you're right. It's an interesting challenge because I'm playing myself, but I also took it in the story. It's like it's not me. I mean, it's partly me, but there's like a madness and there's a surreality that the story goes to, and I had to let go and simply say, okay, don't worry about your own reputation or your own conception of yourself and whether or not people are going to think you're crazy after seeing this movie, which I'm sure some of them do think I'm nuts.
I know.
But it's just like, fuck it, I have madness in me, I think.
Sure.
Every artist does, and everyone does. It's just a question of letting themselves express it. So that's what I tried to do, was not let it to be too comfortable, to get outside myself.
Location. Where did you shoot it?
I think we shot.
I think you've got
10
one
places.
secret location which we can't tell you about. But
Yeah.
there's a. You didn't shoot in the place.
No,
that
we
you-
shot Letchworth Village, which was really you would have freaked out with this place. It was a mental hospital for kids, and it has a horrible history. It burned down at one point. They have one house, the legend of one house, which we did a documentary about and went into. It dealt with really bad demons in that place. An old Catholic priest apparently murdered a bunch of kids, raped, murdered, did black magic in this one house on the property. So I got attacked 3 times, I think, on this place. One time,
Spiritually.
a rock came flying at my head out of nowhere. Just came flying over a rooftop. Boom, lands. 5 minutes later, I'm in a building and the mirror explodes. And then 5 minutes later, something hits me in the back. And like I'm alone on the floor.
And your ex-girlfriend wasn't in town.
No, far away. So it was this place, Letchworth, was really a creepy place. We also saw a ghost there, and definitely some kind of ghost.
So the process of making the film, has it made you much more in tune with the spiritual side
Yeah.
of life or the
Yeah.
dark side of life?
The nice thing about this film is that we have 2 projects. There's one is the feature, which is the documentary style, but it's fiction. And then there's a documentary, which is pure documentary, which we shot as we went to all these different places. And you'll see my transformation in that when we get to put that together, which is a very spiritual thing, right? You tap into your faith, because there's nothing else you have. You go into a place, pure evil, you don't know what's inside, you don't know what's in store for you, you hear demons screaming at you, and it's just faith in God purely, God protect me, I'm here by the strength of God. And I was very much transformed by that experience for the 9 months it was.
Do you have anyone in your life you would consider a mentor?
In which capacity?
Acting, directing, film. I mean, I'm sure living with your father you get exposed to stuff which rubs off, but do you have anyone, do you have that relationship with him, or do you have someone else? Have you studied with other people, or have you just pretty much picked it up, been in it all your life and it's kind of become part of you?
Mm.
Have you
I don't. Yeah, I find.
you've been exposed to so many artists, you've probably done a
Yeah.
bit of everyone, I guess.
Yeah, I find that you have to kind of come with your own. You find your own sense of self and identity in the process of taking and adapting to all of them. So my father, to a large extent, mentored me at one point, but it's not so. I don't really feel like any one person has served as a mentor throughout any period of time. It's always just been watching, studying, learning, taking it from this guy's experience, taking it from that guy's experience, and studying human behavior more than anything, right? Human emotion, which is the reason we do this. It's like, what is this guy thinking? My father will tell you, one point of view, but I don't necessarily agree just because he's the
That's
experienced
his
director.
perception.
I don't necessarily take it as my own. I say, no, I think there might be a different story here, a different idea here. And yeah, I think it's good to stand on your own and figure out for yourself, in a sense, the way you want to perceive your world.
Next on the agenda, would you want to be an actor in a movie or directing it? Or both?
Yeah, I think I would. I mean, I like acting insofar as it's more of like being in another body, and it's a very transformative experience, but it's also shorter time period. So if there was a project that was ready, I would be open to it if I really believed in the project and the characters and the impact of it, then I would say I'd be interested in doing it. But for me, my passion is writing and directing. So I'm already like trying to get the next thing penned and put together. It's just that takes 2 years of your life. So once I know exactly where I want to spend that time, put that energy, I'm engaged. In the meantime, yeah, sure, acting is something that could be interesting if the right project came up.
And what's your next genre?
Next film, I would like to, I don't want to jinx it, but I would like to do something about the Velvet Rope, the nightclub scene of New York, and a young man's take on women, modern day. The idea that it's an inversion. It's basically a reversal of Sex and the City. It's very much
Alfie?
the heartbreak of a
Alfie?
What's Alfie? Oh, Alfie, the young man. Oh, the hunter. You mean?
No, Alfie.
He's a player.
Alfie, the one who I think Adam Faith played him, and I think Michael Caine made the movie. Alfie.
Yeah, the original. He's
The
a player.
original.
Jude
Yeah,
Law did him.
yeah.
Yeah, it's not so much that they're players though. It's more the idea of the women's lack, the modern woman's lack of respect, and so the man, basically the man having become a hunter, an alpha male, and then basically not caring. But in the process of not caring, he gets more women, but he loses his soul in a certain sense. So it's a story of two young artists who basically are trying to do this balancing act between hunting and exploring what I would call hell, and then trying to create art from it. So it's a very complicated story. I'll just say in a phrase, it's Orpheus in the underworld, which is Orpheus was the man who lost his love, and she was killed, and she gets dragged down to the underworld, to hell, by the god of Hades, the god of hell. And so Orpheus follows her, and he tries to get her back, but he can never get her back. And so this is kind of the idea of desire, the young artist's desire for women, his ideal, but women are never reached his ideal, and if he actually cares and he thinks he can have it, it's an illusion. So maybe this is the nature of art, this is the nature of love, this is the nature of all our caring.
Do you think if she would not have been taken, he would have got bored of it?
Yeah, that's the nature of desire, which is what's so interesting to me about this story. It's really a problem of desire, which is women, art, all of it. It's like desire is the flame, the spark by which we create. And so if we had the woman that we loved that was with us every day, maybe the one out of the 10 million is that right one that can board. But 99% of the time, she's not going to tell you before you get bored with her, and you'll desire someone else. But can you ever be filled? That's the other problem. If your desire is insatiable and hungry and you're driven, you're always driving for more and for more, how can you ever be satisfied with anyone or anything?
Do you foresee marriage in your future and settling down with the one, or is it a long kind of... I mean, I see
it's a long journey.
My little knowledge of you, I think you're a romantic.
Yeah.
I think you're a potential husband candidate. However, I also see an artist who constantly is trying to grow and experience new things, and it's not a crime to be that way. It's to reach the unreachable stars. Should a man's, there's a saying, should a man's reach exceed his grasp? I don't know, should a man's grasp exceed his reach, which is the it's tough to find someone that keeps you reaching, I guess.
Yeah, it does. It is.
Do you believe in marriage?
I don't believe in marriage because I think it's been corrupted insofar as the beauty of a relationship is when you have the freedom to say tomorrow, I want to go my separate way, right? And that's the beauty of love. Love is free. There's a free sense of love. I give you my love, but don't expect it tomorrow, because that inhibits the love itself. If you're already foreseeing things or previewing things. In the nature of raising children, it's a different story. But just in the nature of two people being bound, I think that love itself is the marriage. Love itself is the union. But as soon as you put a marriage contract in place, it's like, where is the freedom to love? It's gone. So I think this is a big problem. I think most people are grappling with it. That's why they get married later and later nowadays. Or my generation, 26, 27, it would be young to marry. Probably like more closer to 30, I would say, or even older.
Which is getting older these days, isn't it?
Yeah. Marriage is also it's an economic, socioeconomic problem. I mean, you have an economy like we have, which is up and down and very unstable. So, also women are, you know, the nature of women and men has changed. I don't think that equality of the sexes is a great revolution. I believe in respect, but I don't believe in the nature of women trying to be men and men becoming women. It's like, this is not the normal order of things. There is something primal insofar as I do believe women want to be dominated. They want a man to basically step up and say, I'm the man, shut your mouth, you know, have respect, you know, honor me as your man, and I'll respect you as a woman, but don't trample on me, don't think that, you know, we're co-partners or co-equals here. There's still a man, there's still a woman.
In your opinion, that are not equal? Or they're equally different?
Equally different.
And have different positions in the world?
Equally different. It's a reciprocal process, the yin and yang. And to me, a woman is a nurturer. To me, a woman has an emotional capacity to heal and to support and to help, you know, a man basically by stabilizing him. And a man is a provider and the hunter and really the one who's driving. But together, it's like they can create more. They can conquer the world together when they know their positions. But if one is always trying to trample over the other one, and, you know, there's jealousy, a woman is jealous of a man's power, this is over, you know. It's like you're trying to castrate it. A woman should never be jealous of a man's power.
Should a man be jealous of a woman's?
No. Neither way. It doesn't work either way, you see. Women's power is different from man's. They have different capabilities, different sensualities, and forms of getting their way. But you should never be jealous of the other sexes.
How about lions?
Well, I mean, you should sometimes just pound them in the head.
No, like the lion, the king of the jungle,
Yeah.
the king of animals, they say. You know, because I always think, it's interesting, and I have a somewhat similar belief structure as yourself, slightly different. I try and take things to nature. Let's say if we were talking about the animal planet, the lion. Now the woman, the female lion, is the hunter. She's the nurturer. In fact, she goes, she works, she kills prey, and then the king just comes and eats his fill, goes to sleep. The rest then eat. And basically what he does is protect his domain, not really protect them. He protects what's his. And every so often he comes and gets taken. If they're cubs, the male lion will then eat the cubs and produce his own to keep his gene line. We're one of the few species that predominantly stay with one mate. There are a few in the bird kingdom.
Yeah, the bird kingdom, yeah.
Do you think one man should be one woman?
I believe in harems.
You are a stone.
Every man has his castle, and every man has his harem.
Do you like
I'll
a
tell you something.
Mormon way of life?
I think women cheat as much, if not more, than men, and I think that's part of what the story that I'm writing about actually shows. And it's like there's certain things that no one talks about.
We get a bad rap.
And we get the bad rap because women have put it off on male, you know, misogynism and machismo. And women go around, they do it so subtly and discreetly. And it's just like they can fuck a guy in a bathroom and their boyfriend can call and they can just say, yeah, no problem, honey, I'm just out at the club and in the bathroom right now because it's loud. And then just go back to fucking and then they go home to their boyfriend. And a man can do it, but I'll tell you something, a man, I think when a man gives his heart to a woman, it's a different phenomenon than when women give their heart. This is an interesting hypothesis, but I think when a man loves a woman, she's in his heart, he never lets her go from his heart. Doesn't matter if he goes and he fucked 1,000 other women. It's just like, that was fun, that was an experience.
Exercise.
But you know what?
I love you.
If you're in trouble, I'm there in a second. You're the one I want beside me. You're the one I take out with me, who's my companion, right? There's a respect to that. And women, it's almost as though the more they love you, the more they fear you, because the emotional power of that sensation can overwhelm them. And sometimes it's because they did get hurt, but I think of it more as a calculation, where They're thinking, this guy, he's secure, you know, he's stable. I love that about him. I love his stability. I love this about him. The man just says, I love you, doesn't know why. Doesn't think about what the fuck, you know, why I love you. Just, but a woman's like, I love this about him. I love that about him. And then she knows, like, this guy, you know, he'd be fun. I'm curious. I think he'd be a fun lay.
So they make the ticks.
It's like, you're good for that. You're good for this. You make me laugh. You know, you have money. You could give me jewels. So it's much more of a game, manipulation, and ticking. And for men, I think it's very much, I don't know, I just, you know, I want to protect you and hold you and, you know, be with you. And so there is this problem. How do you know, ultimately, yes, I think a man and woman can be together. It doesn't mean that there won't be any cheating. But I think as long as there's enough respect and respect for each other's privacy and also for each other's individuality, then you won't have to always talk about it. Everything is talked about so much. It's as though we don't remember that throughout history people have cheated. Throughout history people have lived the same way we do now, but it wasn't so talked about. You didn't have, you know, TMZ recording you, or, you know, Facebook broadcasting it, or people taking pictures or gossiping the same way. It was a bit more discreet, for better or for worse.
I absolutely watch that film. If not be in it.
Exactly. If not be in it. I think it'd be it.
Are you dating?
Yeah, but no one in particular. It's difficult to find anyone anymore.
Especially with the schedule. I mean, to be honest, it's
The agenda.
an agenda, not a schedule.
So many agendas. No, I just find it's very difficult because honestly, as soon as you care, if you care before you fuck them, it's over. You can never care before you have sex. Only after sex can a man have any kind of power with a woman. Even then, not necessarily, but at least you've asserted yourself. With before sex, if she knows you care about her, you're like you're on a yo-yo string. And she knows how she wields you. So it boils down to, you know, sometimes just saying fuck you, disrespecting her, and then she loves you for it.
I found every time I've given to myself, I've lost. And every time I haven't cared, I have them take Valium for years to try and control me. But when I care and I show myself any form of weakness,
Boom.
they want the guy to get out.
Boom.
Why?
It's the same with art, isn't it? Like, the more you care, the more you feel like this is me and I care what happens and I really love this. It all gets taken from you. As soon as you say, you know what, I can walk away tomorrow, things come. It's a very strange thing in life. I do agree. It's like magnetism. I go negative, positive tracks. I go positive, everything goes negative.
Are you religious?
I love Christ's teachings. I study, you know, Buddhism to a certain extent. I like studying different religions, but no, I don't practice any one form.
Where you live?
Between New York and LA.
Which you prefer?
New York. But I think they're different cities. You know? One is, New York is a energy and it has a ferocity to it, which is conducive to creation, and especially because there's a young art scene there, and it's almost like people are doing things, people are active. In LA, I find that you get more talk, you get the agencies are here, and there's a lot of, you know, more of like the realm of potential. Like, okay, the studios are here, but if you're not in that game, if you're not at that level of getting things made, it's too slow for my taste.
Abstract question. Any one particular thing in your life you regret? That you wish you could turn around, change, turn the clock back?
I never regret. It's funny because there's a line in the script where the only thing he says is, we never regret it because we always tried. You know, that's the one thing, is that, you know, I always tried. I don't care if it was, you know, asking the girl out or trying to get the script made or trying to pull something off. You know, if you try, there's no reason for regret.
Have you never not tried?
I don't think so. I think that everything has a plan. I really believe it. I have a faith when it comes to the divinity let's say, in the way that things are supposed to happen on Earth. And I believe that things come to you. It's like imagination. Why do ideas? What is it? Where do these ideas come from? I don't believe that they come from us. I believe it's something much bigger than us, and it's acting through our bodies, through our imagination, through our minds. But it's heavenly, let's say. And it comes to you for a reason. You have a concept comes into your mind 1 year, and 10 years later, 20 years later, it becomes real. And you make it. In the meantime, you're going to suffer and say, "Fuck, I think I could have made it last year." And, you know, what am I doing? Like, I got to make this movie. But you can't force something that's not ready. It's not ripe. So there's no room for regret because life is not over. So there's always room to make it up. There's always room to keep creating and to say, "Look, those turns are what got me here. If any one thing had changed, I might not be sitting here right now."
If I was the higher power and I could give you one gift,
Hmm.
what would you ask for?
I think the one thing that I think we all have, but we're trying to express more is our ability to love, to communicate. And so to me, the gift is not so much. I feel that I've been given a lot of gifts and everything I probably need, but I think the ability to clearly communicate to other people, to be able to share insight, to be able to convey higher wisdom and insights, let's say, right? The gift of communication and clarity, which is really why we're doing this as artists. I think that's the gift that we can only hone as we go through life, just getting better at and better at.
What's the bigger gift, to be able to give love freely or to receive it openly?
I think it's more important to be able to give it. But you're right. To me, it's like a transformative reciprocal process, whereby oftentimes I've noticed in my life I get very depressed because I feel like I'm giving. I want to. The reason I'm writing and creating and trying to direct, it's like I want to communicate to you, I want to convey things, I want to inspire you, but then if you feel like no one's watching or no one's paying attention, if you feel like you make a movie and no one cares, then then you get really depressed because there's no reciprocal process of receiving, there's nothing giving back. So I think it's more important to be able to sustain despite the lack of love that you may feel. But you're right, ultimately it's a give and take process. If you don't have it, you can't survive.
On the next project, not to jinx it, will your objective be, when you make the film, will it be your point of view on your take on women and men? Or will you in any way compromise it to make an entertaining film?
Well, we're still working through the script, and I think it's both.
Do you follow? Would you give it the way you feel?
Yeah.
Or would you give, let's say, the other side of a crack too, so it's not just your...
Yeah, I don't think it's self-indulgent. I do think that it's, as we're creating it, I want to maintain the integrity of the point of view, so if it's independent, so be it. You know, it's not a studio film, it's not 10 things that, no, what's that film? He's not that into you, or he's not into you. It's not maybe that commercial, but I think it is, because it's raw. Like Good Will Hunting, like what was raw at the time, or a lot of these independent films that come out of just an angst, a generational angst.
But what I'm trying to say is, your point of view on the subject about the men, the women thing, to be absolutely real, is your objective to be the way you feel? Or, your father always says to me, I'm not a historian, I'm a dramatist. So he sometimes bends the truth to make a more creative film.
Yeah.
The more interesting film for the public. I often wonder what would be the film if you just said this is the way it was and watch it, and if you don't find that interesting, do you have, you know, the definition of acting being truthful in imaginary circumstance, but then there's different levels of truth and there's different boring levels, or the reality could have been this, but this is a more interesting reality. Do you ever fight between, I often as an artist fight between what's truthful and what's interesting.
Yeah, it's interesting because I don't really. There's two voices in the story, because Alex is my co-writer on this as well, and he's got a lot of experience in this world. You know, he's one of the characters is based more on him, the other character is based more on me. So there's a bit of a dialogue, and the irony is that his character is very entertaining, very action oriented. It conveys truth. My character is a bit more thoughtful, poetic. He conveys in his words sometimes the thoughts that countering the other character. So it's always men's point of view, but there is a balance to it. And I think that truth, I mean, to me, what is truth? It's like, it is that eternal question, which is we're struggling through it, and we're constantly trying to find it. I always have a problem with, like, reality of cinema, right? Because people say, like, cinema should be realistic. I say, well, what is reality? You know, like, you think that they take a camera and they point it on us, we're conscious of the camera. You know, we're speaking towards some audience. We have some consciousness of it. We're shaping a reality. The camera's, you know, the way you angle a camera, already it changes your perception of space. You're making cuts in time. It's not real time. So, we know what is this to say reality? I don't believe in reality. I believe that there's human perception, and your mind interacts with the screen, and ultimately, like what Shakespeare was doing, classical art has always done, is it engages the audience such to the point where it gives you a poetry, it gives you a point of view, but it leaves you not with a happy package, gift wrapped, and said, here, now go home and stuff your mouths and forget about it. But it challenges you to walk out and go, let me think about that. Is that, you know, I'm not entirely sure that I agree with it, or that, you know, you walk away and you argue about it and you have a discussion. That's classical art. It engages the audience to create and imagine and fill in the blanks and fill in the spaces between. And, you know, not always to be just satisfied, like a Happy Meal satisfies you. It's junk food.
One last question. Is there a woman out there, famous or infamous? This is just for the everyone has these things. Is there a chick out there, actress, met her, not met her, singer, someone you know from college? Is there a lady out there that you've got your eye on, that is unwalked pastures that you want to meet?
That I haven't met, you're saying?
That you want to more than meet?
Wait, that I know, like I've ever met before?
If you've met her, if you haven't. If you, at the top of the list.
You're saying to sleep with?
I'm saying no, just get, I mean that's your first obviously thing on your mind, but it wasn't on mine. I was thinking of reading a book with poetry. Ice cream maybe. Is there someone, if I said, Sean, Friday night, I'm going to give you whichever one you want for the night out, it's all laid on, who are you going to take? Who would it be? He said, well, out there, just because it's cool to know who would it.
Well, I think there's probably a dozen or two that I could list, but I actually, I mean, just be out of curiosity, I think Jennifer Love Hewitt, because in high school I really liked her, and I was like, I had a crush on her. So out of curiosity, I would say her.
And
just out of high school curiosity.
And the non-curious one?
Huh?
And the non-curious one?
The non-curious one, like, who captivates me? You know, it's interesting because I shouldn't say this on camera, should I?
You should. If it's honest.
No, I saw Scarlett Johansson at one of his nights parties recently, and she has like a bell and ball kind of aura to her. I'd be curious to I'd be curious to talk to her a little bit, get to know her. But I think that there's so many. Funny thing is, it's like the one that got away. I have 12, and to me they're never gone. It's a lifelong struggle, but you'll get them one day. I never give up.
My hero. I think he's